Close your eyes for just a moment and imagine something simple yet profound. A version of you that already has everything you've been striving for. The clarity, the confidence, the peace of mind, the abundance, the relationships, the freedom. It's already there. It's not waiting on some distant horizon. It's not hidden behind years of effort and struggle. It already exists, right now, in a dimension of possibility that is closer than your very breath. This isn't just a poetic idea. It's the foundation of how reality truly works. The future self you dream about isn't waiting to be built brick by brick. It's waiting to be remembered, to be aligned with, to be collapsed into. Most people live as if their lives are a long, slow climb up a mountain. They see themselves at the bottom, weighed down by habits, limitations, and fears, gazing up at a peak so far away they can barely imagine reaching it. And because they believe that transformation must be earned only through hardship and time, they keep reinforcing the very reality they feel trapped in. They wake up in the same bed, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and unconsciously rehearse the identity of who they were yesterday. Then, when life shows them the same results, they take that as evidence that change is far away, maybe even impossible. But what if that's not how it works? What if time isn't a straight line where your dreams slowly inch closer? What if time is more like a field, and within that field, infinite versions of you already exist, some living in struggle, and some living in the exact reality you've been longing for? If that's true, then your future self is not something you need to chase, it's something you need to meet. There's a reason why this message resonates so deeply with seekers, with dreamers, with anyone who has ever felt the quiet ache that says, I'm meant for more than this. Because deep inside you already know. You've felt those moments where the veil slips away when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror, and for a split second, you see the glow of the person you're becoming. Or when you dream at night and wake up with a sense of déjà vu, as though you've lived pieces of your future already. These aren't random, they are signals, invitations, reminders that the life you're moving toward is already woven into the fabric of your being. Still, I know what you might be thinking. If my future self already exists, why does it feel so far away? Why does it feel like every time I take 2 steps forward, I get pulled back by old habits, old fears, old doubts? The answer lies in identity. The version of you who doubts, who hesitates, who feels trapped in the same cycle, that identity is holding on to a story of separation. That story whispers, I am not enough yet. I need more time. I need more proof. I need more resources. And as long as you keep telling that story, the quantum field, the infinite playground of potential, has no choice but to mirror it back. This is why so many people stay stuck. They want to believe in change, but they keep identifying with the self who doesn't have it yet. They focus on what's missing, rather than aligning with what's already present. And here's the paradox. The more you wait for the future self to appear, the more you delay stepping into it. It's like waiting for a reflection in the mirror. To smile before you smile yourself. Reality doesn't work that way. The mirror moves when you move. So in this journey together, I'm going to invite you into a radical shift in perspective. Instead of striving, you're going to learn how to remember. Instead of chasing, you're going to learn how to align. Instead of waiting for life to change, you're going to see how life bends to meet the identity you embody now. This isn't about positive thinking or blind faith. This is about collapsing the illusion of distance between who you believe you are and who you truly are. And I want you to feel into this truth, not just understand it. Think back to a time in your past when you became someone new. Maybe it was when you overcame a challenge you thought you never could. Maybe it was when you found yourself speaking with confidence you never thought you had. Maybe it was when you realized you had healed from a heartbreak that once felt unbearable. At the time, you may have doubted it was possible, but eventually you stepped into it. That version of you had always been waiting. You just hadn't aligned with it yet. Your future self is exactly like that. Already here, already alive in the field of infinite possibility, waiting for you to choose it. The key is not to become it through years of effort, but to collapse into it now, through awareness, through alignment, through a willingness to let go of the old story that says, I'm not there yet. So as we move deeper, I ask you, what would it feel like if you already were the person you've been waiting to become? What emotions would you allow yourself to feel right now? What choices would you make differently today if you trusted that your future is not out there, but here, pulsing within you, waiting for your attention? That is where we begin, not with striving, but with remembering, not with reaching, but with allowing. Because the truth is, you've already made it. The only thing left is to see it. Have you ever noticed how life can sometimes feel like you're running in circles, endlessly repeating the same patterns, the same frustrations, the same fears, the same invisible walls that keep you locked in place? You might wake up with a fresh burst of motivation, ready to finally break through, only to find yourself pulled back into the gravity of old habits by the end of the day. It feels like being stuck in a maze, where every turn leads you back to where you started. And in those moments, the future self you dream about feels impossibly far away. This is the illusion of separation, the belief that who you are right now and who you want to become are separated by time, distance, and struggle. It's the voice that whispers, "I'll get there one day, but not yet. I'm not ready. I'm not capable. I need more proof before I can believe." And the tragedy is that the more you listen to this voice, the more you reinforce it. You create an identity around being not there yet, and so your reality keeps echoing it back to you. But the truth is far more liberating and far stranger than what we've been taught. Time is not a rigid line where you inch forward in small, predictable steps. Time is a field. Imagine a vast, shimmering ocean where every possibility, every potential self already floats like a wave. The confident version of you is already there. The healed version of you is already there. The abundant, joyful, free version of you is already there. And yet most people keep swimming in the same small circle, convinced the rest of the ocean doesn't exist. Why? Because we've been trained to see through the lens of linear time. We're told that growth is a ladder, where you must slowly climb each rung. School teaches us that progress is about grades, step by step. Work teaches us that success is a career ladder, promotion by promotion. Even society whispers that healing, confidence, or freedom must take years. This conditioning creates the illusion that your desired self is always in the future, never here, never now. And so, like an endless mirage, it keeps moving just beyond your reach. But what happens when you begin to question that story? What happens when you realize that the separation between you and your future self is not a wall but a veil? A thin, almost invisible veil that can dissolve the moment you shift your awareness. That's when the maze begins to unravel. Think about it. How many times have you experienced a sudden breakthrough? A moment where something that once seemed impossible suddenly felt natural. Maybe you were terrified of public speaking, and one day, without even realizing it, you found yourself sharing your truth with confidence. Or maybe you believed you'd never heal from heartbreak, and then, one morning, you woke up and realized you had already begun to love life again. What changed in those moments? Did years of slow grinding effort suddenly accumulate in a single instant? Or did you simply step into a new identity, collapsing the distance between the old self and the new? The illusion of separation makes it feel as though you must travel miles to become who you want to be. But the reality is, the distance is not measured in time, it's measured in alignment. When you align your thoughts, your emotions, and your energy with the frequency of your future self, the veil lifts. What once felt far away suddenly feels inevitable. Of course, the old self resists this truth. The old self loves certainty, even if that certainty is painful. It says, "At least I know who I am here, even if I'm stuck." It clings to fear, doubt, and limitation because those emotions feel familiar. But comfort zones are prisons with invisible bars. The longer you stay, the harder it feels to leave. And this is where contrast becomes powerful. The old self lives in fear, but the new self lives in trust. The old self lives in lack, but the new self lives in abundance. The old self clings to control, but the new self surrenders to flow. Every moment you are choosing which identity to embody. Imagine for a moment two parallel lives stretching out before you. In one, you keep replaying the same habits, the same doubts, the same story. Days blur into weeks, weeks blur into years, and you look back realizing little has changed. In the other life, you begin to embody your future self now. You speak differently. You make choices differently. You carry yourself differently. At first the shifts are subtle, but soon reality itself bends to match your new frequency. Which path feels more like truth to you? The key is awareness. The illusion of separation only works if you remain unconscious, if you keep rehearsing yesterday without questioning it. But the moment you pause, the moment you notice that your thoughts, your emotions, and your choices are simply habits, not destiny, you open a doorway. You begin to see that the old self is not who you are, it's just who you've been rehearsing. And rehearsals can change. Scripts can change. Roles can change. This awareness is the first crack in the illusion. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You realize that the frustration you feel isn't a sign that change is far away, it's proof that a deeper part of you already knows change is possible. The discomfort you feel in your current reality is not punishment, but a signal that your future self is calling you, pulling you, reminding you that you don't have to stay stuck in the maze. And this is where courage comes in. To step beyond the illusion of separation, you must be willing to release the comfort of the familiar. You must be willing to let go of the identity that says, "This is just who I am." Because it's not who you are, it's who you've been. The question is, who will you be now? Every spiritual tradition, every mystical teaching, has whispered this truth in different ways. That heaven is not far away, but within. That enlightenment is not in some distant future but already here. That the kingdom of possibility is not earned, but remembered. Modern science is catching up too. Quantum physics suggests that multiple realities exist simultaneously, and consciousness plays a role in which one we experience. Whether you call it spirit, energy, or the field, the truth remains. The separation is an illusion. So the next time you feel the weight of "I'm not there yet," pause. Ask yourself, who is the one saying that? Is it the old self clinging to the familiar story, or is it the new self reminding you that you're already closer than you think? Because when you realize that separation is an illusion, you stop waiting, you stop chasing, and you begin collapsing. If the illusion of separation is what keeps us trapped, then the doorway out of it is alignment. But alignment is one of those words that can feel abstract until you truly experience it. People often confuse alignment with control, believing that if they can just force their thoughts into positivity, or if they can manage every detail of their life, they'll finally align with their desires. But alignment is not control. Alignment is resonance. It's about tuning yourself, like an instrument, to the frequency of the reality you wish to live in. To understand this, let's borrow a metaphor from both science and spirituality. In quantum physics, there's a principle called the collapse of the wave function. Until something is observed, it exists as a probability, a cloud of potential outcomes. But the moment you focus your awareness, that cloud collapses into a single reality. Spiritual traditions have been saying the same thing in their own language for centuries, that where your attention goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, reality grows. The common thread is simple yet profound. Your focus is the bridge between possibility and experience. Think of it like tuning a radio. The air around you right now is filled with thousands of frequencies, songs, voices, signals, all existing simultaneously. But you only hear the one your dial is tuned to. Similarly, your future self is broadcasting on its own frequency. The confident you, the healed you, the abundant you, the joyful you, they are all already broadcasting. The question is, what are you tuned into? Because if your inner state, your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, keeps tuning into fear, scarcity, or doubt, you'll keep hearing the old station. And the old station will feel like reality. But when you shift the dial, even slightly, the static clears, and suddenly you're in resonance with the life you've been longing for. This is why thoughts and emotions are not just private experiences happening in your mind. They are vibrational signals, tuning forks that resonate with the field of infinite possibility. Neuroscience tells us that our brains are constantly wiring and rewiring based on the patterns we rehearse. Every thought you repeat strengthens a neural pathway. Every emotion you dwell in floods your body with chemical signatures that become addictive over time. In other words, The identity of the old self is literally hardwired into your brain and body. But here's the incredible part. Just as it was wired,
It can be rewired.
when you begin to think, feel, and act as your future self, you start creating new pathways. At first, the old ones may feel stronger. They're familiar. They've been rehearsed for years. But the more you practice embodying a new state of being, the more your brain and body catch up. What once felt unnatural becomes your new normal. This is not just theory. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change. It's biology aligning with spirituality, showing us that collapsing into a new timeline is not only mystical, it's scientific. Still, alignment is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's not about forcing yourself into joy when you feel grief, or into abundance when you feel lack. In fact, that resistance only creates more separation. True alignment comes from honesty, from acknowledging, yes, this is what I've been feeling, but it's not who I truly am. It's from allowing the old emotions to pass through, while choosing to orient toward the frequency of your future self. Here's a practical way to imagine it. Picture two tuning forks sitting side by side. When you strike one, the other begins to vibrate in resonance. Energy doesn't need to travel through force, it travels through frequency. In the same way, when you begin to strike the tuning fork of your future self, by thinking the thoughts they would think, feeling the emotions they would feel, acting the way they would act, your current reality begins to vibrate in resonance. The field responds, and the timeline collapses. Contrast is essential here, because the old self operates on fear. Fear that if you let go, everything will fall apart. Fear that if you trust, you'll be disappointed. Fear that if you choose abundance, you'll only be met with scarcity again. And so the old self clings to control, tries to predict, tries to calculate every move. But control is static. It keeps you locked in the same station. Alignment, on the other hand, requires surrender. It means trusting the field. It means stepping into the unknown with faith, because the unknown is where the new timeline exists. Think of a time in your life when you let go of control, and something beautiful happened. Maybe you stopped chasing a relationship and the right person appeared. Maybe you surrendered a job that was draining you, and a better opportunity emerged. Maybe you allowed yourself to rest and clarity arrived. In those moments, you weren't forcing, you were aligning. You stopped vibrating at the frequency of desperation and started resonating with trust, and reality responded. This is why alignment is both science and spirit. Science tells us that energy vibrates, that attention collapses possibilities, that the brain rewires through repetition. Spirit tells us that you are more than a body. You are consciousness itself, weaving through dimensions of possibility. When you bring these together, something magical happens. You begin to live as if your future self is not in the distance, but right here, right now. But how do you know if you're aligned? The answer is simple. Your state of being tells you. When you are aligned, even if external circumstances haven't changed yet, you feel different. You feel lighter, more at peace, more trusting. You begin to notice synchronicities, little winks from the universe that confirm you're on the right path. A chance meeting, a book that falls into your lap, a sudden idea that sparks new action. These are not coincidences. They are the signs that you've tuned into a new station, and reality is shifting accordingly. Of course, alignment is not always permanent. Like tuning a radio, you may drift back into static. Old emotions may resurface. Old patterns may try to reclaim you. That's natural. The key is not perfection, but practice. Every time you notice yourself slipping into fear, you gently turn the dial back toward trust. Every time you feel scarcity creeping in, you lean back into abundance. Every time doubt whispers, "It's not working," you remind yourself, "It's already here." Slowly, steadily, you strengthen the signal until it becomes your dominant frequency. And when that happens, something remarkable occurs. The external world begins to mirror your internal world with increasing speed. Opportunities appear where none existed. Relationships shift in your favor. Your health, your creativity, your energy, all begin to flourish. People might even look at you and say, "You've changed," though they may not be able to explain how. What they're sensing is your alignment. You are no longer living as the old self rehearsing the past. You are living as the future self, collapsing timelines into the now. So remember, alignment is not a goal, it's a state. It's not about effort, but resonance. It's not about control, but surrender. When you understand that your future self is already broadcasting, the task is not to create it from scratch, but to tune into it. And every choice you make, every emotion you cultivate, every thought you nurture, is like adjusting the dial. And as you continue to practice this, you'll notice the veil thinning. What once felt like a distant dream will begin to feel like a present reality. The old self will still whisper sometimes, but its voice will grow weaker. The new self will feel more natural, more powerful, more inevitable. And in that space, the field of infinite possibility becomes your playground, and collapsing timelines becomes your way of life. Now that you understand alignment, the natural question arises, how do you live it? How do you take this knowledge out of the realm of ideas and into the fabric of your daily life? This is where embodiment comes in. Because it is one thing to know that your future self already exists, it is another thing entirely to live as if it's true. Embodiment is about becoming the living expression of your future self in the present moment. Not pretending, not faking, but stepping into the reality that the version of you you've been dreaming about is already alive inside of you. Every choice, every thought, every feeling becomes an opportunity to either reinforce the old self or embody the new. And it begins, not with some massive leap, but with small conscious decisions repeated with intention. The first practice is visualization, not as fantasy but as memory. Most people use visualization like wishful daydreaming, imagining something far away that may or may not happen. But the key is to see it differently. Your future self already exists, so when you visualize, you're not making it up, you're remembering. You're pulling from the field of infinite potential and rehearsing a memory from your future. And when you do this with emotion, your brain doesn't know the difference. It begins to wire and fire as though it has already happened. Your body releases the chemistry of that reality. You begin to feel it now, and that feeling is the magnet that draws the experience closer. But visualization alone is not enough. You must also shift identity, and that happens through daily rituals. Ask yourself, how does my future self begin the day? Do they wake up rushed, immediately checking their phone, flooding their mind with stress? Or do they wake with calm intention, choosing to set the tone of the day with clarity? If your future self meditates, then begin to meditate now. If your future self speaks kindly, then catch yourself when your words spiral into complaint or criticism. If your future self treats their body with love, then make choices that honor your health now. Each act may seem small, but together they rewire your identity. And identity is the foundation of embodiment. Because you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. If your identity is still rooted in lack, then no matter how much you try to manifest abundance, the field will mirror lack. But if your identity shifts into abundance, even before external proof arrives, then abundance begins to flow. This is why embodiment requires courage. It asks you to act as if before you see it, to choose trust when fear tells you to wait, to step into the unknown, knowing that reality will reorganize to meet you. One powerful way to anchor this is through emotional rehearsal. Every day take a few moments to close your eyes and feel into the emotions of your future self, not just the images, but the feelings. If your future self is confident, feel that confidence in your body now. If your future self is free, feel the lightness of that freedom in your chest now. If your future self is abundant, feel the generosity, the gratitude, the joy of that abundance now. Let the emotions flood your system until they feel natural. Because once your body believes it, your life will follow. Journaling is another practice that bridges the gap between old and new. But don't just journal about what you want. Journal as though it's already real. Write, I am so grateful for the life I'm living. Today I felt peace flow through me as I worked on projects I love. Today I experienced connection in my relationships. Today I felt the universe guiding me in synchronicity after synchronicity. At first it may feel like imagination, but over time it becomes identity, and identity becomes reality. Still, embodiment is not about perfection. There will be days when you slip back into the old self, when doubt creeps in, when fear feels louder than trust. That's okay. The goal is not to eliminate the old self in one grand gesture. It's to notice, to become aware, and to gently shift back. Every time you choose the new self over the old, you strengthen the signal. Every time you forgive yourself for falling into an old pattern and realign, you build resilience. Embodiment is a practice, a rhythm, a dance. Here's a contrast worth holding. The old self waits. It waits for evidence, for proof, for the world to change before it believes. The new self leads. It believes first, and lets the world follow. The old self says, "I'll feel abundant when I see money in my account." The new self says, "I'll feel abundant now, and the money will flow as a reflection." The old self says, "I'll feel loved when someone shows up for me." The new self says, "I'll embody love now, and relationships will meet me there." This contrast is the essence of embodiment, shifting from reaction to creation. Storytelling can help you anchor this truth. Imagine two people standing in front of a locked door. One believes the key is far away, so they never even try to open it. The other believes the key is already in their pocket, so they reach, they search, they persist, until they find it. Embodiment is the belief that the key has always been within you, and that belief changes everything. As you continue to practice, you'll notice reality shifting in subtle ways. You'll meet people who seem to appear out of nowhere, offering opportunities you couldn't have planned. You'll notice your intuition sharpening, guiding you with clarity. You'll find yourself speaking differently, standing taller, making decisions with more trust. And these are the signs that embodiment is working. You're no longer living as a shadow of who you could be. You're living as the essence of who you already are. And remember, embodiment is not about trying harder. It's about allowing more deeply. It's about remembering that your future self is not something you create, but someone you meet. Every day you collapse the timeline through choice. Every moment, you embody the frequency of the reality you prefer. The more you practice, the thinner the veil becomes, until one day you look around and realize the life you once dreamed about is the life you're living. And so we arrive at the heart of the journey, the integration, because it's one thing to awaken to these truths, to feel inspired in the moment, to glimpse the possibility of your future self. But the real transformation comes in the quiet after, when you return to the rhythm of your daily life. Integration is where wisdom becomes reality. It's where knowledge becomes being. It's where the new self no longer feels like an idea, but like home. You don't need to strive to hold on to this shift. You don't need to force yourself to never slip back into the old patterns again. That pressure only belongs to the old self, the one who believes change must be earned through struggle. Instead, see this as a gentle unfolding, like learning a new language, like planting a garden. It happens through rhythm, through presence, through steady devotion. Some days will feel effortless, others may feel clumsy, but every day you return to alignment, you are strengthening the bridge between who you've been and who you already are. The key to integration is simple. Keep remembering. Remember that your future self is not distant, it already exists. Remember that separation is only an illusion. Remember that alignment is resonance, not control. Remember that embodiment happens through small, repeated choices. Each time you remember, you collapse the timeline a little more. Each time you remember, the veil becomes thinner. Each time you remember, the frequency of your future self becomes your natural state. And here's the most beautiful part. The more you integrate this, the more effortless it becomes. You no longer need to remind yourself every moment, because your body, your brain, your energy begin to live it automatically. What once felt like practice becomes identity. What once felt like imagination becomes reality. And that is when you know the collapse has happened. You are no longer trying to step into your future self, because you simply are your future self. So as you leave this space, I invite you to take a breath and ask yourself one question. What is one small choice I can make today that aligns with the self I am becoming? It could be as simple as speaking more kindly to yourself, as simple as trusting the flow instead of forcing, as simple as pausing to feel gratitude in the middle of your busy day. These small choices are not small at all, they are portals. Each one is a doorway into the timeline of the new you. And if ever you doubt, if ever the old self whispers that nothing has changed, return to this truth: your future self has already arrived. They are not waiting in the distance, they are here right now, within you, guiding you, calling you to remember. All that is left is your choice, your willingness to embody, your trust in the unseen. Because in the end, reality does not change when you chase it. Reality changes when you collapse into it. And that is what you are doing now,